What if I told you that you can go back in time and talk to the richest man in the richest city of the world, and you can ask them like, hey, what are some of the tips you will give me if I want to become the richest man in the world? There's this book which is written Richest Man in the Babylon. It was written in 1926, and I happened to read this book few weeks ago, and I thought like, wow, these are some of the great principles from ancient wisdom and the biblical principles. I should make a video about this and tell you the principles I have been implementing in my life. So I hope you can implement them in your life as well. Let's go. Lesson number 1 is pay yourself first. Let's say I'm making $5,000 and let's say you are making $5,000. On the day you get the $5,000 deposited in your bank account, you need to pay yourself first. And you might be thinking like, all that money is for myself. Like, what do you mean by pay yourself first? I used to think like that as well. But remember, you don't pay yourself first, because as soon as you get the money, you pay to the rent or the house mortgage you have. Then you pay to the education loan if you have education loan. Then you pay to the Netflix. Then you pay to the internet bill. So you are paying all those people first instead of paying yourself first. So the book recommends, and I actually recommend too, that take 10% of the salary you make and pay it yourself first, meaning take the 10% of the money and put it in the savings account. Going back to the example, which is 10% of $5,000, which is $500, and put it in the savings account. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, I've talked about emergency savings. So I like to have 3 to 6 months of emergency saving, which is living expenses for 3 to 6 months. If you already have that, then you take that $500 and invest for your future, which is the lesson number 2. Invest wisely. There's another story about this guy who wants to have gold, and he's a really hard worker, and he also makes good money, and he wants to have more and more gold in his life. So then in the book, there's a chapter called 5 Laws of Gold. And one of the laws talks about is that even if you have the money and if you're just saving the money, you need to make your money work for yourself. Instead of just putting it in the bank account, your money can't do anything in the bank account. So make your money work for you. Now remember, this principle only applies after you have saved 3 to 6 months of expenses. I've said this in before as well, but don't start investing if you don't have the emergency fund in place. So once you have saved the emergency funds, take the money and make your money work for you. You might be asking where to invest. I would highly recommend you to look up my other videos, but start investing in index funds, which is S&P 500. Here are some of them. You can start investing in them. They are more secure and more long-term, but make your money work for them. Which brings me to the lesson number 3, which is don't invest into something you don't understand. So remember I said there was 5 laws of gold, which this guy is talking about. In the book, it talks about that you shouldn't invest into the business which you don't understand that business, because at that time, people didn't have stock market, obviously, in the ancient times. So people used to buy lands or buy in businesses, which like a small businesses, and they would invest into that. There's a story where he invests into a business which he doesn't understand at all, and he loses all the money. So that's why there's this law that you should not invest into a wine business if you are a farmer, because you might be good in farming business. So invest into the business which is farming business, or so and so. So I would highly recommend you as well that don't invest into something you don't understand. And I'll give you my personal example. This is in 2017, and the Bitcoin was like very, very, very in hype, and every single YouTuber was like, you should invest. And my roommate was investing in it, and all my friends were investing in it. So, if you remember 2018, 2017, the Bitcoin price were going up. So I was like, all right, cool, I will invest in it. But then there were also the hype of other coins, because Bitcoin was like, crazy expensive. I'm like, I don't have $10,000. So I'll invest into something altcoins and Tron and like Ripple and all those other fancy coins. So I was like, they are cheaper. So, I can afford them. So let's invest in them. I started investing in them. I had zero idea how they all work, and I have no idea about them. So without any knowledge, I started investing in it. And apparently Bitcoin started to go up. If you remember, it was all-time high, like 60,000 or something like that. And because it was going up, all the other coins were also going up. And I was like, ooh, this is cool. So I became greedy and I started investing more and more and more. And I ended up investing almost about $10,000 to $15,000. And guess what? It went down and then it never came back up again, and I sold it in fear that it's not going to come back up again, and I lost almost $10,000. So please don't do that. I've made mistakes and I've lost so much money. Next lesson is live below your means. This is one of my favorite lessons from the book, and I actually do this and I have been doing it. If you make $100 and you're spending $90, so you are really just having $10. And yeah, if you spend 90% of what you make, you're not living below your means. In fact, some of them, and then there's a story that you're spending way too much more than what you make. So if you're making $100 and your expenditure is 110 or 150, that's a recipe to become poor instead of becoming rich. So figure out that number for you. For me, it's 50% of the salary should be expenses. Rest 50 is investments and savings and all of the fun stuff. So whatever that number is for you, maybe it's 60%, maybe it's 40%, maybe it's 20%. I don't know. Whatever that number is, figure out that number for yourself, but live below your means. Next lesson is avoiding debt and avoiding impulsive spending. Now, in today's world, if you see, the world is broken into like two half, kind of. One says don't get any debt, and one says you should leverage debt. This is a fancy way of saying that use someone else's money to become rich. But I am on the side where I don't like debt and I would like to avoid any kind of debt. But let me explain, what do they mean by leverage debt? You go to the bank and say, can you give me $100,000 loan? And bank is like, sure, here's the loan and it's on 3% interest rate. You're like, great. Now, these people who says leverage debt, they believe that you can take the loan for 3%. It's not your money, it's bank's money because they are giving you $100,000. Now, because it's 3% interest rate, can you invest that $100,000 into something which will make you more than 3%? So, for example, can you take that money and put it in the rental or put it in the real estate or put it in the oil market or stock market, which will give you 7 to 8% of return on your money which you have invested? So now you are making a profit of 4%. So you don't have to put your money, you are using bank's money. So that's called leveraging debt. I'm okay with not doing that. I would rather be okay with what I'm making and invest the money which I have the control over it, and I'll sleep much more peacefully. And so that is avoiding debt. And the reason you get into the debt mode is because you start spending money on your impulsive purchases. Computer, you can't see it, but there's a computer right here, or the fancy mic or the iPhone. Those are some impulsive purchase people can easily make. And this world is so consumer focused where money can be spent just by looking at the camera and your money will go away from your bank account and there's no friction. You will not even realize that money is gone away. DoorDash is one of the reason, like I spent like so much money during COVID, and also the reason for me to become so fat. So avoid debt and avoid impulsive spending. Next lesson is kind of divided into three parts. First is to figure out your focus and goal, then to take action, and then to be patient and understand the compounding interest. Let's start with number one, which is setting and focusing on goals. You have to set a goal and keep your focus on the goal. Because if you don't set a goal, you have no idea where you are going, and you will have no idea whether you have reached the goal or not. So there's an ultimate chase going on. Whether you want to have $1 million in the bank or 2 millions or 10 millions or 1 billion, if you don't know what the goal is, then you are just going to keep chasing and you will never be happy. So figure out what is your financial goal. For me, it is to buy back my time and have the freedom to do whatever I want to do without worrying about the money. So that is my goal. And there's a number attached to it, which I don't want to discuss here, but there's a number. Like if I get that number, I think I'm pretty set. Single day I can wake up and make videos, or go to vacation without worrying about job or anything like that. That is the freedom and that's the goal I am going forward. You have to know what is your goal. Second is taking action towards your goal. A lot of time I've seen that people create this fancy vision board and goals and define their goals and write it down, but never take any actions towards it. So take action, whether that is paying off the debt, saving 10% of the salary, investing the money wisely, whatever it is, you need to start taking action, which follows next step, which is patience in compounding the investments. Growing wealth is a long-term game. You cannot expect to invest today and then tomorrow you can become a millionaire. That's not investing. That's not growing wealth. That's just a lottery. But growing wealth takes time. So have patience. You just consistently have to do what you have set to do and then forget about it and let the compounding interest do the magic. And all of a sudden, when you reach that time, magically have all this wealth generated for you. So be patient with all your investment and all the hard work you're doing. Final lesson is to give back to your community, being generous. Once you have gotten to a point where you have started generating some wealth, you cannot become like greedy and just keep wanting to more and more and more. You want to give back to the community so that they can use the money for greater purposes and you can create an impact and see your wealth helping other people. I have a budgeted number which I donate to my church and to other people and all the fun stuff. So same thing you should be doing. Whatever that amount is, give back to the community. So there you have it. Those are some of the lessons from the book. If someone who's interested in understanding money, I would recommend you to read this book. Link in the description. And if you like this video, I'm 100% sure you're going to enjoy this video, which is about how to automate your money and save thousands of dollars, or how to start investing. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.